Hello everybody and welcome back to the And More Bus Videos YouTube channel. I'm And More Bus Videos, otherwise known as And More Central, depending on what day of the week and what video you're watching. And welcome to Midland Park and Ride on the WestCountry version 3.03 update of this absolutely truly amazing map by the UK development team. I wasn't initially going to drive this bus, however I kind of forgot that with the lovely Go North East repaint packs that I've got, also includes this livery from a little nice finite period of history that the Go North East operation had. Initially being on the 58 service, the Citylink 58, these ex-London Citaros then ended up on the X66 Gateshead to Metro Centre service before being withdrawn and replaced. I believe at the time they were replaced by Streetlights, then Eclipses, and now Streetlights again. So, yeah, a little finite bit of history and a nice excuse to drive something a little bit different that, in fairness, is associated with park and ride services. And I'll tell you why it sort of has been associated rather than currently is, because the uses of Bendybuses are once again changing in the UK. So we'll get the vehicle all set up. There we go. Excellent. Excellente. The machine's already switched on. So it's been a while since I've driven this Bendybus, so bear with me if it takes me a little bit of time to get used to it. So I'll switch some daytime running lights on because we have got a cloudy day, and it just might as well have our marker lights on just to help people see us. So I am going to just not do that. There we go, let's get that door closed. I'm going to move just slightly closer to the curb as I didn't quite realise the angle that I'd initially parked it on. So now there's no one else, so let's make a move. So we will make our move from the park and ride side. Oh, it is actually quite tight getting out of here. It is actually quite tight. Okay, I didn't realise how tight it would be on the bend. Okay. And there we go. Let's make a move into the centre. So the 100 service, for those of you that remember my last video on it quite a while ago actually, the 100 service is a circular route, so you start and finish at the park and ride site. So yeah, the Citaro Bendybuses in the northeast didn't last that long, unfortunately. I thought for a route like the X66, the Metro Centre Express, these would be perfect, obviously having the high standing capacity. They're absolutely ideal buses, but Go North East went for a more frequent corridor using smaller vehicles because these did have some reliability issues rather than using these on a less frequent service. It is a shame that these have had reliability issues of articulated buses for more recent times in the UK. It is a shame because if it wasn't the case, I imagine quite a few areas would still use them, potentially including the North East, because they were rather successful on the X66 service. Let's say that they'd kept the same frequency, these would have still been ideal. As I say, at the time, that's not something that we can relate to at the moment, unfortunately. They preferred using more drivers, more buses on a more frequent service to attract people rather than less regular with bigger capacity vehicles. It's not something that we tend to hear at the moment, unfortunately. I've also just felt that I've got to go around the hospital twice, and it's certainly something to look forward to. Oh, come on, game. There we go, and it's here. Just for those of you that watched the previous video, that little was because I genuinely was worried that it had once again crashed. For some reason, I don't know what has happened, but this like now and the video before, I seem to have some really bad lag points. Don't quite know why, but it just doesn't seem to want to work. So I don't know if I'm just going through one of its little bad moments currently. But as you just witnessed there, it decided it was going to do its own thing. Freeze up with a blank screen for a little bit. Thankfully, it actually came back this time. But there we go. Thankfully, it came back this time, so we didn't have to worry as much. But still not particularly ideal. Yeah, at least we might actually make it into paint, and whether we make it out or not's another question, but I genuinely thought a couple of minutes into this video and that was going to be it. And so it's quite nice that we're still driving. So the Citaro Bendybuses are becoming a rarer vehicle to find. In more recent news and why they are quite a relatable bus to drive at the moment. First York have announced, I believe it's actually this week I'm filming the video, that their Citaro G articulated buses on the park and rides, the 111 series vehicles, are getting withdrawn with the intention of transferring them over to Aberdeen. At the moment, the idea behind it is to transfer them over to Aberdeen to allow the fleet at York to become 100% electric with all of these GB kites and hydroliners, or electroliners, sorry, they're not hydroliners, electroliners, and ready to enter traffic. So the intention is to utilise them. Oh, why would you, when I'm turning as well, why? But yeah, with all of these coming along, they want to make the fleet 100% electric. So as a result, all of the diesel buses are going, and the next ones to go are going to be the Citaro Bendybuses. And they're going to go up to Aberdeen and join the rest of the batch that is currently attempting service up there. I believe they did have some poor reliability problems when they first arrived. So they are still attempting to run them. I believe they are running them a bit better now than they were when they first got them. I believe they were actually quite rare out in service when they first got them. And rather bizarrely, they are going to be replacing the Enviro 500s. The Ensign bus are now starting to sell. bearing in mind that Ensign Bus is part of First, it's something that is quite easy to forget. So First are selling off their Enviro 500s. Examples of the type at Aberdeen are starting to be withdrawn, ready for movement over to Purfleet for sale by Ensign Bus. And it's a similar case in Cornwall as well, where they are regularly utilised on certain college contracts due to their high capacity nature. That means all the students can get on the bus. So they are changing what they do. The high capacity vehicles are going. The idea is to standardise the fleet, and in return the Citaros and Bendybuses are going to continue in Aberdeen. It's also more than likely going to leave Aberdeen as the only place in the UK within First Bus that comes to mind. Is there somebody wanting to get off? I mean, I'm not particularly happy letting them... God, there isn't, okay, because I'm not particularly happy letting them off there. Oh no, it's just a dashboard warning. Nothing major then. But it's going to leave it as the only place within First Bus within the UK. As they do have another operation with articulated buses. I believe the numbers, in fairness, of the articulated buses are dwindling now as well, because they've ended up getting all of the Evoras, that's the one, the Evolutions Evoras. They've ended up getting all the B8 Evoras. But Dublin and the First Air Coach business use them at Dublin Airport on the car park shuttles and airside. They do have a few Citaros. I saw them last time I was there, quite old ones as well, but I believe they are starting to usher them off fleet. So I believe they still have a few examples. That means that there and Aberdeen are going to pretty much now be the only places to use articulated buses within the First Bus empire. I don't need to open those doors. So it's going to be strange seeing York without Bendybuses, really. I mean, York has been the Bendybus place for quite some time. So it is going to be really, really strange going to York and there'd just be no chance of seeing a Bendybus. I mean, it goes back to the B10. There we go. The B10 LAs that used to do the park and ride. I saw they did it at some stage. I know it wasn't I don't believe it was a permanent fixture with B10 LAs, but I know that there definitely was a short period where at least one has done the park and ride. But then it was predominantly the B7 LAs. That was the one I was mainly going for some reason, because B10 LAs were Beeston. They were the Beeston Holt Park 1s and the 8s in Manchester. I would imagine that they utilised at least one of the B10LAs, at least one of the B10LAs as demonstration on the York Park and Ride. I would be very surprised if it wasn't the case, because at that time there wasn't many articulated buses that you could just kind of borrow and use, really. So they had the B7LAs. Then they had the FTRs. Everybody will remember the FTRs. B7LA streetcars rather than B7LA fusions. And then they had the Mercedes Citaros Gs. So York has had quite a rich history with articulated buses. I mean, Yorkshire has had a rich history with articulated buses, and the ones in York do signify the end of the operation in mainstream public service of articulated vehicles. In Yorkshire, it is a big milestone, a big milestone, and quite a sad one as well, saying that we are going to be seeing the end of it. So it is a shame. It is a big shame, but as with life, things do move on, unfortunately. So I'm going to be honest, I was quite proud of that turn. I'm quite proud of that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the bus only just fit, but I was quite proud of that. But you look at the history of articulated buses in Yorkshire. I mean, you've got to remember the South Yorkshire PTE and DABs that they had. The first proper Bendybuses that were sort of for left path UK roads. Unlike the O530Gs that were used at airside, I believe the odd airport, the Glasgow Airport, Edinburgh Airport used them, or Luton or somewhere like that. They utilised them, and then we had our first left path ones in the form of the DABs that were based in South Yorkshire and Sheffield. Then we had a lull with our articulated buses, and then the stories that I told you with York. Not to forget with Leeds with the B10LAs on the Brown Line 1 service, the brief encounter of B7 LAs on Pink Line 617 and 618 in Bradford that then ended up going over to York. And you've got all of this rich history, the demonstration of the FTR in Sheffield for a brief period to see if it worked and see if it functioned. The FTRs in York, in Leeds, and then transferring from the FTR brand to Hyperlink on the 72. All this different progression, this different era, all involving articulated buses. Then you had Stagecoach, East Midlands, who used to bring their sort of articulated coaches, their articulated jonkiers, and they used to do the X62 from Hull to Leeds as well. There's such a rich history of articulated Bendybuses in Yorkshire that has now come to an end pretty much. It is so sad that the era is coming to an end. Really is, and it's going to be an era that will be really sorely missed, because as a young kid, I mean, I had a lot of involvement seeing the FTR, seeing the hyperlinks, all of that lot, and to sort of see them go was sad, but to see the whole concept of articulated buses in Yorkshire go is really upsetting. It is definitely the end of such a significant era. Because you used to be able to stand in the middle of Bendybuses, or stand not in the middle, but standing by the bend on them, and that was always a pretty fun experience. So standing in the bend section, I mean, I was quite lucky to go on an articulated bus, an ex-Brighton and Hove example that an operator in Lancashire has. I went on that quite recently in Yorkshire, that was actually, West Yorkshire, that was actually quite a nice throwback. Really lovely vehicle, really nice. Remapped as well, so absolutely flew. And it was quite nice to experience an articulated bus again, and experience a really good one, because you tended to find that a lot of the headlines, especially after the fires in London with the Citaro Gs, when they were new, you heard quite a lot of bad press about articulated buses, the idea that they were clogging up the roads, they were getting stuck, and they were causing all these problems, when in actual fact quite a lot of them never caused an issue. They never really caused a problem. There was never an issue with them. They just cracked on. Decent motors. But obviously, because the world loves a bit of bad press sells, the Bendybuses usually ended up being quite a negative thing. I mean, that's what got the FTRs kicked out of York. And what's caused quite a few companies to withdraw them as well in more recent times. So unfortunately, it's the way the world is going. We have got really lucky with the traffic lights on this road. Like, really lucky. I actually have no idea how. I was really, really glad that that truck's turning down there, because I would really struggle for a place to pass that. I don't quite know what that warning is that keeps coming up, but something is not happy on this bus. Although in fairness, whenever I drive the Bendy, I always tend to have some sort of warning come up, or it loses all of its air at the front. It's usually one or the other. Usually loses its air, to be fair. That wasn't the best of the best parking, but it has been a while since I have driven the Citaro G. In fairness, it's been a while since I've driven a Bendybus on this game. I mean, I used to drive them quite a lot, to be fair. I used to drive them a lot on the European maps, and because I just don't tend to drive the European maps as much anymore, because there's not as many being released. A lot of attention is focused to the UK side. I don't tend to drive the Bendybuses because when you look at them for the UK side, this is pretty much the only option. I mean, there is the B8 RLA, or whatever they call it, RLA or what have. Part of the Veiling pack, but I like to drive something relatable and not fictitious, if I can. Don't get me wrong, it is nice every so often, but I prefer driving, if I'm going to drive like a Bendybus, it's going to be the Citaro. It's going to be something that is relatable. So, in this livery as well, surprisingly. I remember being quite young and doing some research. I hadn't been at the time doing some research into Go North East brands, and at the time this had only just been launched during that period. I mean, we're talking a fair few years ago now. And I remember seeing all the branding on the website, and it looked really, really cool. Really, really cool. From sort of a young age perspective, marketing like that is just like, you just go, oh wow. It's really, really cool. Oh my goodness, again? Really? Let's see if luck is still present or if luck has run out. Because I don't mind this set too much, but it's the one after that really bugs me. Because I never seem to get through them in one go. I always have to wait in this direction. Usually coming in as we did, I do okay. But it's always this direction that I have issues with. So I mean, usually in fairness, I get through these lights in one go. Which is quite unusual. That'll do. Not getting through one set, but getting through the other. Just as good. Everybody's changing lanes, okay. It's that bit where the AI goes, I don't know, everything needs to swap. So it has done just that. So we're nearly back now. Again, what I love with these gone-off East repaint packs that individuals do is everything is just... the liveries look really, really nice. They're obviously really nice to see in the game. But they always go down to the fine details, always make sure the maquette's there. And it's not just there, but it is high quality. I have known repaints in the past that are really, really good repaints. But vastly, vastly let down by the quality of the seating maquette. If it's too pixelated, I mean, it can ruin the entire repaint for me. Oh, we have actually a few minutes early. I mean, the best I can do is about here. I mean, I don't really know where else to park, to be fair, because I can't scoot past the bus, and I particularly don't want to block too many roads off. It's not much of a choice there, so I'll just switch off the bus here. Make sure all neutral, excellent. So yeah, that was, I nearly wasn't at one point, the full round trip on the 100 service, the Midden to Park and Ride route. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then do be sure to click that like button so that more people can find it and enjoy like you have. And if you haven't already, do be sure to subscribe to the Bus Videos YouTube channel for more content like this from the simulation section, as well as an archive of over 5,000 backseat and engine-focused public transport videos from the UK and beyond, with buses, trams, trains, and more. There's something on there for everyone. So do go and check out those archives and go and check out those playlists. Once again, though, I would like to thank you all for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you all in the next video, mate. Goodbye for now. Bye.